This conference will now be recorded.
It's a glad welcome we bring you to this afternoon, filled with desires, hope, and dreams we all share. Wishing you a good afternoon filled with relaxation. I am Abhinaya from the Department of ECE. Today's topic of the webinar is Public Key Infrastructure. God speaks in the silence of heart. Listening is the beginning of prayer. The wish to pray is a prayer in itself. Now, I call upon Sherlin and Sakti Shri to lead us with the words of prayer.
In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Today's Bible reading is taken from the book of Proverbs, chapter 25, verses 2 and 3. It is the glory of God to conceal a matter. To search out a matter is the glory of kings. As the heavens are high and the earth is deep, so the heart of kings are unsearchable. This is the word of God. Thanks be to God. Amen.
Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
We would like to extend a special welcome to the speaker of the day. Now, I call upon Afrin to deliver the welcome speech. Over to you, Afrin.
Thank you, Abhinaya. Good afternoon to everyone gathered here. I hope everyone is safe and doing good. Thank you, Almighty. It's my pleasure to extend a cheerful welcome to you all. And on behalf of Loyola Institute of Technology, Management, Administrator, Principal, Vice Principal, HOD of ECE Department, we wholeheartedly welcome all the participants for this webinar. On behalf of department, we, the coordinator, welcome our resource person of today's session, Dr. K. Vidya, Department of IST, CEG, Anna University, Chennai. It's my pleasure to extend a cheerful welcome to you, ma'am. Your presence makes us very happy. I'm sure we will enrich by the webinar on public key infrastructure. Thank you, ma'am, for accepting our invitation even in this pandemic. We welcome you wholeheartedly for this webinar. In this context, I congratulate all the coordinators of this webinar, faculty members of ECE, and professional friends who made this event happen. Dear participants, once again, I welcome you all for this wonderful technical day. Thank you. Be safe and stay strong. Over to you, Abhinaya.
Thank you, Afrin. Now we will have the introduction about the speaker by Abhishek. Over to you, Abhishek.
Thank you, Abhinaya. Good afternoon, all. I am Abhishek. It gives me an immense pleasure to introduce our resource person, Dr. K. Vidya, Assistant Professor from the Department of Information Science and Technology, College of Engineering in the Anna University, Chennai. Her areas of expertise are interdomain routing, security in interdomain routing performance analysis, and wireless network. She has more than 15 years of teaching experience. She has received a fund of Rs 50,000 for her project on secure data transmission using quantum cryptography in a DIS. She pursued her UG in BE Electrical and Electronics Engineering in the year of 1998 and ME in Computer Science Engineering in the year of 2000 in Bharatiyar University. She completed her PhD from Anna University in Interdomain Routing in the year of 2012. Her publications are 9 international papers in reputed journals and 9 paper publication in international conference. We gladly welcome you, ma'am. Over to Abhinaya.
Thank you, Abhishek. Dear participants, kindly post your queries and questions in the chat box. Now, our speaker will take over today's session. Over to you, ma'am.
So good evening, one and all.
Good
Can you
evening,
all
madam.
hear me? Good evening. So first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Nalini Joseph, Vice Principal, Head of the Department ECE, and the management of Loyola Institute of Technology for giving me this opportunity of delivering a lecture on public key infrastructure in this webinar. So thank you, ma'am.
Okay, welcome, ma'am.
I also like to thank Mr. Abhishek for giving me an introduction about myself. Thank you, Abhishek. So good evening, students. Can you hear me,
Good evening, ma'am.
students?
Yeah, you could able to hear me, ma'am. Hear you, ma'am.
Yes.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yes, good evening. So I think you all have a small idea about security in computing, is it not? Students, are you
Yeah,
able to
afraid.
interact with me or you are muted?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So what are the goals of security and why do we need security, right? In this today's scenario, right? Also in this pandemic period, we all completely rely on this communication technologies and also softwares which which help us to interact within ourselves, is it not? So completely we all relying on this digital world. So this digital world has to be more secure as far as all the data transmission is concerned, right? So data transmission, not only transmission, whenever we call a digital data, right? So the digital data can be in the form of a storage. It may be in a storage device. It may be in lines. It may be in operation or computational processes. So wherever the digital data is there, we need some sort of security towards that data, is it not? We all have our own devices and we have our own personal information within our devices, is it not? So can we leave our data just open to everybody, to the outside world? Is it okay for us? Students, can you please interact with me?
No, ma'am.
No, we do not want our data to be shared to everyone outside our, outside our space, is it not? So that is why we definitely need some sort of security to our data. So what kind of security you all need for securing your own information? What do you say security means? In what way you need security towards your data? Can you highlight some few points about it? Do you want your data to be disclosed to everyone?
No, ma'am. We want to secure our data from the third party, ma'am. We
Yes,
can't
third
able
party.
to share.
Secure, can you say what is that secure? Secure means what kind of security you expect there?
The details should not be leaked, ma'am.
Yes, so which means that you do not want somebody to know your data once, right? Even if something, sometimes if you want to share your data to others, right? But you do not want others to modify that data. Is it not? Sometimes you may like to share your information to everyone. Say, for example, in WhatsApp, you are trying to forward some data about something, right? But if somebody modifies that and forward it again to somebody else saying that it is sent by you, will you accept that modification? And
No, ma'am.
no, definitely no. So we do not want anybody to modify the content of ours, right? That is one more important goal of security, right? So in some other time, say for example, you are trying to send data to somebody else, and you want to know that whether the right person has received that data. Sometimes, if you are trying to receive data from others, you also want to ensure that whether you are receiving the data from the right person. So both side you need to ensure whether the sender is the right person or the receiver is the right person. So what do we try to achieve over there? So we try to achieve the term called authentication over there, is it not? So we want to ensure whether the right person is sending the data or
Madam,
ma'am.
your slides are not moving, madam. You are not
Yes,
open.
I have not
Okay, not
changed.
started. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
So in that way, what we try to, ensure things is whether the sender is the right person or the receiver is the right person, and we want to achieve authenticity over there. So first you said that your data is very, very important and you do not want to share the data where you require confidentiality. And the second way, you also try to say that nobody should modify your data. In that way, you want to achieve the goal called integrity of your data. So in the third way, you want to ensure that whether the data is received by the right person or the data is sent by the right person. So there you want to ensure authenticity, right? So apart from all these, sometimes if you want to send data, right, the data is received by the receiver. At a later point of time, the receiver should not deny that the data is not received by him. At the same time, you cannot deny that you have not at all sent the data. So this this kind of scenario called as non-repudiation is also very, very important in terms of information security. So as said earlier, so the security is not a simple term, right, with respect to digital data. Here we try to achieve security in different forms, say confidentiality, integrity, authentication, non-repudiation. Apart from this, we have so many terms called privacy over there, right? So secrecy is also maintained, right? And in addition to that, there is one more term called trust, right? So what does trust means? So if you want to have some secure system within yourselves, definitely we should have some trust towards other. Say for example, we are trying to lock our house whenever we go out, right? But we try to close the door with a lock system, is it not? But in that case, the lock is a physical system, lock and key is a physical system, right? In that case, whom do we rely upon when we try to make use of a physical lock and key system? Can you imagine and tell me? Whom do we rely on when we try to have a physical lock and key system in order to protect our house or any organization or any building or any physical infrastructures? Don't we rely on the lock and key manufacturers? So we have some trust over themselves, is it not? So in the same way, any computing system also have some trusted parties in themselves, right? So trust is also a very important term with considered to information security. So there are so many protocols given as standard systems, right? So where these protocols can be used in so many other computing systems when wherever required with the help of the required goals. If that particular computing system needs to provide only confidentiality, then that kind of protocols are included. That type of standard algorithms which are recognized and published by various international bodies are used. In some other systems, if they need some authentication alone, then those kind of protocols are only used. If both are required, say confidentiality is also required, authentication is also required, then those protocols which provide both will be included in any kind of computing systems. Is it clear or not? So in that way, based on the required goals of any computing system, the corresponding corresponding algorithms or protocols are normally used by any software developer, right? So the basic encryption system is normally termed as symmetric encryption system. And apart from that, there is an opposite crypto system called asymmetric key crypto system. So when we talk about the symmetric crypto system, as the name says, both the sending end and the receiving end, they try to use some algorithm where those algorithm makes use of the raw data which you are trying to send to the other party, and the algorithm tries to operate on those particular raw data along with a common key, right? In that way, the receiver also use the opposite algorithm, say decryption algorithm, where the same key is used by the receiver also, right, in order to convert that ciphertext into plain text, right? So the raw data which we try to send is called as the plain text, and the text that is sent through transmission lines is normally called as ciphertext, right? So in the asymmetric key cryptographic technique, the keys are different at the sending end and the receiving end. So what they do is they try to have a key pair. Both the sender and the receiver will have his own key pair, where one key is considered to be a private key and the other key is considered to be the public key, which he shares with the opposite party, right? So both these cryptographic schemes has its own advantages and disadvantages with respect to the other, right? So both kind of cryptographic schemes are being used even today in any of the computing platforms. So this symmetric key cryptography can also be called as private key cryptography, which means that the key is kept private, right? So the term symmetric in the sense same key at both the ends. So it is called as private key cryptography or secret key cryptography or single key cryptography, however it is, right? Whereas in the case of public key cryptography, the system uses two keys, say public and private key, right? So as I told you earlier, both the parties maintain a key pair where one of the key pair is kept private by himself and the other is made public to the all the opposite parties, whoever he want to communicate to. So this is a basic scenario. Now you can see the sender is usually termed as Alice and the receiver is usually termed as Bob, right? So they have a key pair among themselves, right? So Alice has his own key pair, Bob has his own key pair, right? So Alice uses an encryption algorithm in order to modify his plain text, that is the data which he want to share it to Bob through a public transmission mode, right? So in that case, he do not want others to see his data. So what he does, he apply that raw text into an algorithm. So some manipulation is being done on that particular raw data, where the algorithm makes use of a secret code which is called as the key, right? The key is not his key. Instead, what he does is he tries to make use of the Bob's public key, right? So Bob has his key pair. So one among that is kept within himself, which is called as Bob's private key, and Bob shared the other key of that key pair to Alice, which is called as the public key. So Alice makes use of Bob's public key. Then he compute that encryption algorithm and convert that plain text into a ciphertext, and that ciphertext is shared through public lines, right? So now Bob receives that ciphertext. He applies that particular ciphertext into a decryption algorithm, right? So that decryption algorithm, what it does is it makes use of his own secret key, that is his private key, along with the same opposite algorithm, right? Then he decrypts that ciphertext into the corresponding plain text, which is the data actually sent by Alice. So when compared to this system with the symmetric system, here the encryption is done with the receiver's public key and the decryption is done with the receiver's private key, right? In the case of symmetric key cryptographic scheme, both the ends try to use the same key, right? So that is the main difference between symmetric and asymmetric cryptographic system, where this asymmetric cryptographic system is also called as public key crypto system, where this public key plays a very important role. That is why it is termed as public key infrastructure, cryptographic scheme. Since because it provides all the goals of security, right? So many computing systems make use of this particular asymmetric cryptographic scheme, and this is called as public key crypto system or public key infrastructure, which is so popular. But when you consider symmetric key cryptographic scheme, if the particular secret key is shared by the sender to the receiver, sometimes if it gets compromised, or if the man in the middle attack, he tries to make use of some statistical operation on the received ciphertext, and if he gets the secret key out of them, and he can play the man in the middle attack. So he impersonates either the sender or the receiver by either sending the data or by receiving the data. But that kind of attacks can be avoided in asymmetric key cryptography or the public key cryptographic scheme, right? But in symmetric key cryptographic scheme, so the confidentiality may be lost because of the compromise of the secret key. Otherwise he can play the role of, because of this impersonation, he can play the role of sender or the receiver, where the authenticity is also lost, right? Also, sometimes he can modify the message and he impersonates the sender. Then at the same time, the modified message can also be sent to the receiver. So there, which is also lost, the integrity is also lost. So because of this kind of disadvantage of this symmetric key cryptographic scheme, the asymmetric cryptographic scheme, which is also called as public key cryptographic scheme, emerges, and all the problems all the problems of the symmetric cryptographic scheme are overcome by this asymmetric cryptographic scheme. So let us see how this public key cryptographic scheme overcomes these issues. Students, can you able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now look at this scenario. As I told you, the same scenario in a different structure. Alice and Bob are there. They uses the plain text, converts that to cipher text, and you can just see this. This is the key generation procedure followed by Bob, and he generates the key pair. He keeps a private key with himself, which is used for the decryption procedure, and he publishes this public key. He publishes one among the key pair to the public, where Alice catches that public key and makes use of that public key of Bob in order to send the data to Bob in the form of ciphertext, right? So here, who alone can decrypt this data? Because say for example, if we have this key pair and the data which is converted into ciphertext can be again converted into plain text only with the help of the private key, where this public and private key are mathematically related to each other. No other value is used to decrypt this particular data. So which means that they are mathematically computed. So this key generation procedure which is used by Bob is a mathematical procedure by which he says that both these keys are relatively related to each other mathematically. So no key in this world can can be related with this public key in whatever procedure he follows. So this guarantees that only the receiver can decrypt the sent information. So nobody in this world can decrypt this information. But still, there are attackers who do some theoretical calculations in order to find out the private key of the corresponding public key. The idea is the public keys and private keys used by Alice and Bob are very, very large in size, say more than 50 to 100 digits. So in that case, if we do the things theoretically, it will take years together. By the time the importance of the data which is being sent through lines becomes obsolete. So that is what the thing is. So whatever be the crypto system, however strong it is, however complicated it is, anybody can break any kind of algorithm. But the thing is, time matters, right? So the time involved in breaking or breaching any security algorithm is actually the matter behind it, which makes the system more obsolete at a very later point of time. Say for example, if we do an important transaction with a very larger amount, where the middleman tries to sniffs everything and he tries to do some operation and tries to breach the system, by that time, if it takes more time, say in terms of days or months or years together, then by the time the transaction is not at all important and it becomes obsolete, and the importance of transaction becomes obsolete at that time. That is why any banking system, they ask us to modify our PIN number or keys frequently. By that time, the attacker may not able to use our own old password into our computing system. So this is the reason they always ask us to frequently change the PIN numbers or passwords, because the theoretical calculations behind it which is used by the attacker cannot be used in future. So this is the basic mathematical representation of the ciphertext, which makes use of the public key and the plain text, where E is the encryption algorithm which makes use of the plain text and the public key. Whereas at the decrypting end, the receiver, what he does is he applies the decryption algorithm onto the ciphertext he receives using his own private key. Right? So in this case, the confidentiality is definitely be achieved because the receiver is only having the session key and he has not even shared this value to anybody in this outside his device. Right? So this way, the goal called confidentiality is ever achieved. Right? In addition to achieving confidentiality, authentication is also achieved because you can say the same. Let me show you the slide a little bit later. In addition to authenticity, in addition to confidentiality, public key crypto system is also helpful in key distribution and also in key distribution and also in digital signatures too. Right? So let us see how it happens. So the main characteristics of public key infrastructure is it is very infeasible to find the decryption key. As I told you, if the attacker tries to identify the private key of the corresponding public key, theoretically, definitely it will take years together, where time is the very important factor in any digital transactions of any computing system. Right? So that particular characteristics is very helpful in the digital media today. So let us see how public key crypto system is helpful in achieving both confidentiality and authentication. Now you can see this. This is what we have seen a little bit earlier. The encryption is done with the help of the opposite party's public key, right? And at the same time, if the ciphertext is decrypted by the receiver with whose private key, see, you can just see this. So in this case, the sender is Bob and the receiver is Alice, right? So the opposite scenario is being presented. The receiver Alice, he shares his public key to Bob. Public key, the sender actually, he maintains a key ring, right? So as we have a key ring in our home, this person also maintains a key ring where the public key of all others are maintained here. So this person makes use of Alice's public key in order to convert the plain text into ciphertext, where this is decrypted by the receiver's private key, right? So here confidentiality is achieved. At the same time, if the sender makes use of his private key, right, who can open this data? Say for example, I am trying to share a data to you all, right? Students, I am trying to share data to you people, right? So what key I am using? I am trying to use my private key, where the public key of my private key is shared to you all. Let us assume that it's broadcasted to you people, right? Say 60 of you are trying to maintain my public key with in your public key ring, right? So I try to encrypt the data by with the help of my private key, right? But who can open those data? You all can open the data, is it not? So which means that this confidentiality is not achieved here, because every one of you have my public key and every one of you can decrypt the data and you can view the data. So in this case, confidentiality is not achieved because the ciphertext is decrypted by you people all, right? Not a single person, but all of you can decrypt it. In this case, what is achieved is you all have the guarantee that it is only sent by me, because the public key that you have has the related private key which is only with me. So you all have a guarantee that it is only sent by me, where authentication is achieved, right? So I also have a guarantee that only you people, 60 of you, can open my data, because you people alone have my public key. So this way authentication is achieved. So while encryption If I use my private key, then authentication is achieved. At the same time, if the encryption is done with the help of opposite party's public key, then their confidentiality is achieved, right? So either way, by using the different kinds of keys, we can achieve both confidentiality and authentication at the same time, right? In the same procedure, but which is missing in symmetric key cryptography, right? So with the help of the usage of either the sender's private key or the receiver's public key, both or authentication and confidentiality can be achieved at the same time. This is a different projection of the same concept. So where the message source is applied to an algorithm where it is using the opposite party's public key, right? So this is the key pair source. So this key pair source is meant for the destination end, which is Bob's. So he uses his private key and the public key is sent to the opposite party. So Y is nothing but the ciphertext. Ciphertext is received by the receiver. He decrypts and with the help of his private key. So in this case, secrecy is maintained because only the receiver has the secret key of the corresponding public key. Nobody else in the world has the secret key of this particular published public key. Is it clear? So this way secrecy is maintained. At the same, authentication is also maintained if the encryption is done by the sender's private key, sender's secret key. Is it clear? So if the encryption is done by the sender's secret key, authentication is achieved. If it is done by receiver's public key, secrecy is achieved. So if we try to combine both, we can achieve both secrecy and authentication, that is confidentiality and authentication. In the first algorithm, what he does is he makes use of what key? He makes use of secret key of himself, right? And in this case, authentication is achieved. In the second algorithm, he uses public key of the opposite party, right? So where here confidentiality is achieved. So double encryption is done in order to achieve both confidentiality and authentication. So X is the raw text, Y is the partial ciphertext, and Z is the complete ciphertext, which ensures both confidentiality and authentication. So at the receiving end, two decryptions are done. One is in order to decrypt it for authentication purpose, and the other is done for decrypting it for removing the confidentiality. So by combining two encryptions with different keys, both confidentiality and authentication are achieved, right? So when compared to symmetric key crypto system, this public key crypto system is used to ensure both secrecy and authentication, right? So in other words, this public key infrastructure also helps us to for key exchange procedures and also to generate digital signatures, right? Let us see how it happens. So you all heard about this digital signatures, is it not? What is this digital signature? Is it just putting a physical signature and capturing it and pasting, cutting and pasting it and wherever required? Is that the digital signature? No, definitely not. Actually, it is simply pasting and that is those are called e-signatures, right? So whereas if you are receiving a mail from a banking system, right, which says that this particular document is digitally signed, so the sender's authenticity is not given below. Like that, you may receive so many documents from banking sectors, is it not? So those are digitally signed in the sense that they have manipulated or computed or they have operated those documents with the help of an algorithm. Let us see how this public key infrastructure is used to provide digital signatures onto any documents. So now assume that we have two people, say Alice and Bob, right? So what he does is he has his message. The message is applied to an algorithm, right? Where this algorithm provides us with the signature, right? So this signature is nothing but some modified content of this original message. So some manipulation is done onto this actual message, which produces a small information which is called as signature, which is actually a function of this original message. For this algorithm, right, the sender's private key is only used. So the sender's private key, if at all it is used, means authentication is achieved. So the digital signature is usually meant for authenticity, right? So what they did is, the signature is usually attached to the original message at the bottom. The receiving end, the receiver, what he does is, he detaches the signature and applies the same algorithm onto the original message with the public key, right? So he will have the same signature. So both are compared. If they are one and the same, then definitely he has a guarantee that he has received the information from the right person. So same thing is also given with the help of a different scenario, which is called as hashing, right? So the actual message is applied to a hash function. Let us see what this hash function is. So when the message is applied to a hash function, it gives us a hash code. The hash code is encrypted by the sender's private key, which is called as signature directly. So in the previous case, the actual message is directly applied to a digital signature algorithm, which produces the signature. Whereas in this case, a hash code is intermediate hash code is generated, which is encrypted by the sender's private key, and the signature is produced. So this signature is attached to the original message, and it is sent by public lines, and which is received by the receiver. So what the receiver does is, he applied the same hash function onto the message, because hash functions are single way functions which cannot be reversed. So that is why the message is actually, the receiver receives the message along with the signature. So the signature is first of all decrypted by the with the help of the sender's public key, where the hash is separated. Now the sender's message is now applied to the hash function, which results in the hash code. Both these hashes are compared, and if they are one and the same, then the receiver ensures that he has received the content from the right person. So this way, digital signatures are helpful in order to achieve authenticity. So this hash function is usually a one-way function, which is used to ensure both authenticity along with this integrity. So in this case, the signature is meant for achieving authenticity, whereas this hash is meant for achieving integrity. So what is this integrity goal called integrity? It is nothing but actually the receiver ensures that the message is not modified through lines. So another goal called integrity in information security is also achieved with the help of this public key infrastructure, right? So this combination of hash function along with the signature, right, it ensures both integrity and the authenticity. So this is some details about hash function. They condenses arbitrary message to a fixed size. That is, any size message. Your input message can be of any size, which can be applied to any hash function that results in a fixed size. So many example hash functions are there. Say SHA algorithm, and also message digests with different versions are there. Right. So we have not gone into specific algorithms for both symmetric cryptographic schemes or asymmetric cryptographic schemes. I am just giving you the overall picture about public key infrastructure. Right. So when you consider symmetric key cryptography, I can say so many examples like DES, AES, Blowfish, something like that. Whereas in the case of asymmetric cryptographic schemes, so many algorithms like RSA, Elgamal are there, right? So in the same way, when you have hash functions, there are hash algorithms called a SHA with its own versions, and again message digest algorithms are there, right? So these are one-way function, it cannot be reversed, right? So that is that property which is called as one-way property, which is very helpful in generating the hash code for any given data. So this is why integrity can also be achieved in the case of public key infrastructure. And also that no two hash function produce the same hash. So computationally infeasible to find two data to the same hash. So when you apply a hash function onto any given data, it will not give you two different data. It will give you always the same data. So this is called as collision free property. So any hash function will have this one way property along with this collision free property. So this is used to achieve this goal called integrity. Right? So this way we have algorithms for ensuring confidentiality. We have algorithms for ensuring authenticity and for achieving both at the same time. Also, we have algorithms for achieving this integrity, say hashing algorithms, right? So this is that small structure of this hash function. So some algorithm which takes a variable size information as input, which results in a fixed size output. So this hash value is always fixed. That is what this hash code is. So this is usually encrypted by the sender's private key, which results in the signature, right? So there are various formats for this also. Some other uses of hash functions are, as I told you, the integrity check, and the hashing keyed hash is used for message authentication code along with this digital signature can also be generated. So these are some of the representations where the message is applied to hash function and the result is concatenated with the original message, where the message along with the hash code is encrypted using the maybe the symmetric key, and it is the encrypted content is sent, right? So this is decrypted with the same symmetric key. Here the symmetric structures are used, right? Not the public key infrastructure, right? But hashing is used. So hashing is applied to both symmetric structures and also asymmetric structures. So in this case, signature is generated which is attached to the message, then it is hashed, then the hash is attached, concatenated to the original message. This is another form of using the signatures in symmetric structures. This is hashing and digital signatures with public key crypto systems. So now you can see message applied to hash function, and this hash is encrypted with the private key of the sender, as I told you earlier, which is concatenated to the original message. Now it is transmitted through lines. This is the destination end. The destination end, first he detaches the encrypted hash. First he decrypts it and takes the hash as such using the public key of the sender. Then he generates the hash function by himself. As this is a single way function, he cannot make use of the reverse hash to this process. He cannot have a reverse function here to generate the hash. Instead, what he does is he applies the same message to the same hashing algorithm and he generates the hash by himself, and he compares that with the hash sent by the sender. So if this comparison is success, then he assures that integrity is maintained. That is, nobody has modified the content through lines. At the same time, because of this encrypted hash, that is, the hash is signed actually. If the encryption is usually done by the sender's private key, then it is called as signature procedure, right? So this signed hash is decrypted by the public key of the sender. So in that case, authentication is achieved. So authentication is achieved, and also hashes meant for achieving the integrity, right? Since here confidentiality is not done because single encryption is only done. If at all the entire message requires confidentiality, as you can look at the lower image, now the message along with the encrypted hash is concatenated with each other, then which is encrypted again by a session key. So this is the ciphertext, not the raw text. Whereas in this upper figure, here the raw text with this digital signature is sent. Here confidentiality, if it is not required, then the message can be sent as such, right? So many computing systems send the document as such where a confidentiality may not be required. If confidentiality is also required, then double encryption will be done, one for achieving confidentiality and the other for achieving authentication. So not only public key infrastructures are used for achieving these goals of security, say confidentiality, integrity, authentication, they are also used for key distributions, right? So key distribution, let us see how it happens. We have a sender and the receiver. So in the first case, what he does is he tries to just say a hello message to the sender, to the receiver by the sender. So he uses a nonce value. Nonce is a one-time value, right, along with the identity of the sender. So it is actually encrypted by the public key of the receiver, right? So public key of the receiver, then this message is decrypted by the secret key of the receiver, right? So he immediately responds to this hello message, first hello message, by including a second nonce value, right, along with the first nonce value. So by receiving this message, A actually decrypts this information using his private key, right, because it is encrypted by his public key by the receiver. So in this case, both the nonces are received by this sending party, where he assumes that the values n1 and n2, he takes it out, and n1 is not at all modified through lines. So the message that he has sent is not disturbed by any middleman, right? So based on this, what the initiator, I mean the sender, will do is he replies to this hello message by saying that n2, right? So by sending the n2 back, where this receiver has a guarantee that this sent message is not disturbed by the middleman. Now what he does is, the fourth message, he includes this session key. Actually this is the symmetric key which is used for the further communication, which is called as session key, and the session key is actually encrypted by the sender's private key, which is also double encrypted by the receiver's public key. So double encryption is done, one for achieving confidentiality and the other for achieving authenticity, right? So the future communication will be done with the help of symmetric key cryptography. So this hello message has happened with the help of public key crypto system, right? So symmetric key also plays a major role, right, for the appropriate communication, whereas the hello messages are done with the help of public key crypto systems, right? So now using the public key, they try to share the symmetric key, which is for the actual communications. So now you can understand how public key crypto systems is also used for sharing the symmetric keys. So key distribution is also supported by public key infrastructure. So apart from this, how this public key, as we are talking about public key, private key, public key, private key, how this public key is usually broadcasted to anybody. Usually in olden days, the public keys were displayed through social media. Social media in the sense with the help of newspapers, and displayed at various junctures, right? So even they are delivered one to one, but in this today's scenario, we are sitting at different parts of the world, and displaying at common junctions, or by displaying in newspapers, it is not at all feasible. So somehow this public keys has to be shared to all entities across the world. So there again comes another standard called X.509 standard, which is used for sharing the public keys by in the name of a certificate, right? So public keys are usually, it is something like a mark sheet or degree certificates, right? So which are given by appropriate organizations, right? So public key certificates are usually delivered or provided by licensed people across the globe, right? Say they try to publish the certificates which carries the public key of the actual party who needs it, right? So let us see how that standard, because everything is globalized, right? So public key distribution should also be globalized. So that particular service is called as, usually this is the practice which is followed currently, which is X.509 authentication service, which is also called as X.509 certificates or public key certificates, which carries the public key of any subject in the sense entity. Say for example, if I want to share my public key to you all, then I have to approach any certificate authorities who are publishing certificates. Then I have to approach them, then I have to show my public key, then my identity along with my public key are usually published in the form of a certificate by the concerned licensed authority to the public, right? So those licensed authorities are also approved by their own licensed authorities, right? Hierarchically, right? In that way, this is that certificate which carries its own version number of the protocol or the standard, the certificate serial number. Like our any degree certificate, any certificate carries a serial number, and what kind of encryption is done, encryption algorithms are used, that is what type of algorithms is used for the digital signatures of this certificate. Actually this certificate is also digitally signed by the issuing authority, right? So for that they would have used the digital signature algorithm. So those algorithms and the corresponding issuer name, who is the licensed certificate authority, the issuer's name, the validity period. Like any credit card, the certificate also has a validity period, and the subject is, this is the subject in the sense whose public key is there here in the certificate. Say for example, if I am trying to share my public key in the form of the certificate issued by a issuer, then my name will be here. Then my algorithm, what algorithm I am using in order to make use of that by the receiver, so that they can use the public key in that particular algorithm, which algorithm is also used by me with the help of my private key, right? So my identification value, that is the subject's identification value, issuer identification value, and some other extension fields which can be used in future, and the entire certificate is signed, that is the digital signature portion is available here. So this is that certificate which has a proper appropriate standard format, right? And this protocol is called as X.509 protocol, which is used throughout the world, right? And actually any licensed authority also maintains a revocation list. That is, the revocation list usually carries which particular certificate will expire on which particular date, right? And if at all if some public key is compromised, say for example the public key of mine is compromised, then immediately I have to change my key pair, then I have to change the public keys, and I have to provide you all with my new certificate, is it not? So if the compromise has happened, or if my public key reaches the expiration, expiry period, then immediately the certificate has to be revoked, right? So the license authority will take care of the revocation of the public key certificates of the approached subjects. So this way public keys are shared to the opposite parties across the globe, right? So how to obtain a certificate? Any user with access to certificate authority can get any certificate from them. So only certificate authority can modify a certificate. It cannot be forged because it is signed, right? So every certificate authority is a licensed authority. I want to show you who are all the certificate authorities in India. Just a minute. Can you see my can you see my screen?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
actually, yeah, there are so many licensed authorities who try to provide public key certificates to the people, right? People in the sense to entities, say organizations or institutes, right? So in India, maybe it is country wise, so many organizations are doing that. So you can just view so many organizations who act as licensed CAs, say eMudra, CDAC, even CDAC is doing that, Indian Air Force, Pantasign, Indian Army. Actually, for all of them, some regulatory body must be there, right? So that regulatory body is nothing but MeitY, Government of India, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, right? So this is how certificate authorities are usually issued by the licensed parties. They get their license from MeitY in order to publish the public key certificates to required subjects. Subjects in the sense required parties. So for all of these CAs, there will be a root CA, right? Root CA means Roots Certificate Authority country wise, and those country wise certificate authorities will be again having a hierarchy like that. It continues. So let me show that how it proceeds. So the certificate hierarchy, let me show that in the form of, yeah. Now you can see here, maybe this A, B, C or N parties, right? So this means that the certificate of C is issued by the licensed authority X. So C got the public key certificate from the publishing party, which is certificate authority, whose identity is X, right? So where X is also approved by another certificate authority in the hierarchy, say W, right? So which means that these two should be mutually authenticated to each other, right? So X is also a licensed authority. At the same time, W is also a licensed authority. So X actually certifies W. At the same time, W certifies X. So mutually they certify themselves so that for any communication they have a mutual agreement among themselves. So say for example, if B want to communicate to C, right? So C wants to know the public key of B. At the same time, B wants to know the public key of C. Then only they can mutually communicate among themselves. So how do they get the public key of each other? They have to approach the licensed authority through this, and they are all this route is actually they are certified among themselves. So for every one of them, there must be a root CA, and this root CA may be state wise or country wise or continent wise. And finally, there must be somebody who is it's a distributor structure. So everyone, any end user entity definitely can have the certificate of public key certificate of anybody else in the globe through these licensed parties, right? So every country will have their regulatory body like ours. So they will be monitoring the licensed authorities. They also have their validity period. Their license has to be renewed appropriately in periodic times. Like that, all these happens. So this public key infrastructure as a whole is used to achieve confidentiality, integrity, authentication, key distribution, right? Digital signatures, and also the public keys are shared using appropriate protocols, say X.509 standards. So public keys cryptographic algorithms are there, which is in which RSA is very much popular, right? So even apart from that, there are so many other public key algorithms which are even used today based on the requirement, right? So as I told you, certificates can also be revoked when the validity period is over, right? So it is done by the licensed authority, and the licensed authority's validity period, if it is expired, then it has to be again revoked by the regulatory body. So this is how the entire public key infrastructure is worked out, right? So so let me stop this session, and any queries in this topic?
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you for a wonderful session. It is very informative and interesting. Such topics like crypto system, digital signature, and everything. It is too knowledgeable. And now we have a question answer session. It will be taken over by Dimple. Over to you, Dimple.
Thank you, Abhinaya. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us, ma'am. There are multiple questions in the chat box. Due to time limit, we have picked some interesting questions. The first question is, which algorithm mostly prefer for the encryption of data?
So it is usually agreed upon by the sender and the receiver. If they prefer symmetric key cryptographic schemes, they go for symmetric key cryptographic algorithms. As I told you, in the certificate itself, the algorithm is appropriately mentioned, is it not? So if I want to share the public key to the other party, the corresponding algorithm will, all other parameters will be mentioned in the certificate itself. So any two end parties can have an agreement among themselves, or the certificate carries that particular algorithm.
Thank you, ma'am. The second question is, how do cyber police retrieve the deleted and encrypted messages?
No, it is completely based on the OSS operating systems of the devices used by them, and otherwise, definitely they would have used the social media to take out things. And hardware also sometimes support them, and they the cyber police, they have a tie-up with the manufacturers of the devices. So that network is very very strong, and it is kept confidential, and they have so many interactions among themselves, which is usually kept secret within themselves.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is, how we can secure our data from the third party? Is there any methods or technique to secure it?
Definitely, as I told you earlier, the raw text should not be used anywhere, and wherever you try to share data, it should be in the form of a ciphertext, and the algorithm behind it is very very visible to everyone, but the confidentiality lies in the secrecy of the keys only. That is why this public key infrastructure is used, because the secret key is not shared anywhere, and only the public keys are shared. Even though the public key and private key are related to each other, it is not that much easy to retrieve the private key from the available public key, but theoretically it is possible. Any algorithm can be breached, but the time involved in breaking an algorithm is the main factor, during which the actual importance of the data goes obsolete, right? So definitely any algorithm is breachable, where because of this time behind it, it may take months or years together. So because the size of the keys are used, the size of the keys are very very large, and the computation is also definitely complex because of the size of those values and the algorithm's complexity, right? So in that way, a third party definitely can break any algorithm. The time is the main factor by which, if at all he knows those keys, if he could able to take the key out, and if he applies into that algorithm, by that time we will be changing the pin numbers and the passwords, is it not? So that is how we can protect our data, and we are all frequently alerted by any computing systems to change our pin numbers and passwords frequently, to avoid these kind of middleman problems.
Thank you for answering the question, ma'am. The next question is, if we have to both encrypt and compress data during transmission, which would we do first and why?
Okay, definitely compression should be done first, because encryption is a complex task, which may involve computational complexity. If you do the raw text, if you do encryption onto the raw text, then compress it, definitely that is not meaningful. So better compress it. If at all the compression happens at the sending end, no issues. And if you rely the compression, if you rely for compression with a third party, definitely the other way around is benefitable.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is, in WhatsApp, there is a text displayed as end-to-end encrypted. No one outside, not even WhatsApp, can read or listen to them. In this, what kind of encryption method is used?
So your app there is actually they are having a server, right? So you are all user accounts, right? So the end to end, in the sense the data which is delivered to you is encrypted. Definitely it is done behind in your browsing browsing area, so where everything is modified by the app itself, and the data is sent as ciphertext, no, not raw text. Raw text is not allowed anywhere.
Thank you,
WhatsApp is
ma'am.
that encryption process.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. Even if WhatsApp cannot read our text, then how do cyber police retrieve the deleted and encrypted messages?
They have the tie-up with the concerned organizations, which is
Thank
not
you, ma'am.
disclosed to the public.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. The next question is, what are the major threats of any data or information for which it needs cryptography?
Threats, in the sense all kind of threats are available now, is it not? Even at store, I mean vulnerabilities may be there in any system. I mean at the input wise, software developmental wise, right? In various stages you have you can identify vulnerabilities. Threats may arise because of these vulnerabilities. Definitely while developing any computing system, vulnerability check has to be done. I mean, today we have so many testing technologies, say penetration testing, where you have to identify those vulnerabilities in order to prevent the threats, right? So threats may be in any form to any computing system, right? So those threats may be active or passive, right? They may collapse any computing system, or they may be simply as sniffers and take data out of it, and they may use those data for their I mean personal purposes without affecting our system, right? So it is all with respect to the development of our computing system. So while developing the system itself, care should be taken in order to avoid vulnerabilities at various developmental phases.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is, how the end-to-end encryption has happened without known by the middleman?
Middleman, definitely he can know the algorithm with which encryption is done. The thing is, he do not know only the key. Here the secrecy lies only with the key, right? All the algorithms are open to all, right? So he can sit and statistically do all the brute force approach, and he can break anything. As I told you, middleman is known to the algorithm but not with the key. He makes use of the ciphertext along with the algorithm to do reverse engineering, and he may take out the key back, right? So if at all he takes the key out, and if he tries the same for the next transmitter data, by the time the sender should have changed his pin number, right, or password, right? So that is how we can protect our data frequently. And if we I mean if we are lazy in doing that, changing the passwords frequently, definitely it can be broken by or breached by any attackers.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is, when and who requests the access from the certification authority?
When and who request the access uh, from this? Anybody can approach any certification authorities. Whenever I need a public key certificate to be published to the outside world, then I may approach the certification authorities by providing my identity along with my public key. So actually it will be generated by me. If at all I need a certificate, I will generate the key pair, and I will keep one of the keys secret, and other thing I will try to publish it. At any time it can be done by any end subject with the certification authorities. The thing is, if my key is compromised and if I am known to that, then I approach the certification authorities for the next time for publishing any my certificate.
Thank you for answering all the questions, ma'am. It was more valuable and knowledgeable. Still, we have more questions to answer, but as we are running out of time, we will mail you all the questions. Students, don't worry, all your questions will be answered. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you. Over to you, Abhinaya.
So
Thank you,
thank you
Dimple.
students for patiently
I,
listening to me, and thank you for the opportunity given.
I think if you know what you believe, it makes a lot easier to answer the question. Thank you so much, ma'am, for answering all the questions. Thankfulness is beginning of gratitude. Gratitude is the completion of thankfulness. Thankfulness may consist merely of words. Gratitude is shown in acts. Now, I call upon Dinesh Kumar to propose the vote of thanks. Over to you, Dinesh Kumar.
Thank you, Abhinaya. Good afternoon, everyone. Respected and most distinguished chief guest, respected principal, our beloved HOD, our honorable professors, and my dear friends. I deemed it a great honor and privilege to propose a hearty vote of thanks to those who have directly and indirectly contributed to this webinar on public key infrastructure organized by our department. Let me first of all give glory to the Almighty God for making today's webinar a resounding success. I would like to thank our chief guest and resource person, Dr. K. Vidya. You are very really enlightened with your knowledge and presence. Thank you, ma'am, for a very interesting and thought-provoking address. We are very glad to have learned some new knowledgeable things from you. Especially the question and answer session was very informative and knowledgeable to our students. I would like to thank our respected principal, Dr. Sujata Anand, for supporting us. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our beloved HOD and Vice Principal, Dr. Nalini Joseph ma'am, for a word of encouragement and support, and also for giving us this opportunity to bring out our talent. I extend my special thanks to our HOD, Dr. Nalini Joseph ma'am, for her effort in bringing our resource person for the webinar. I heartily thank all the participants for their active participation in this event. No program can become successful with a single person. So I extend my big thanks to our department, and I thank all the participants who show up their interest for the webinar with utmost curiosity. Once again, thank you everyone who gathered here and made this event a successful one. Thank for the opportunity. Over to you, Abhinaya.
Thank you, Dinesh Kumar. Coming together is beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success. My hearty thanks to everyone for the great success of the event. Stay tuned with us for upcoming webinars on the topic Application and Boundary Condition for Electromagnetic Field to be held on 19th May and next webinar on Safe Computing to be held on 20th May. Kindly register for the webinar. Dear participants, the feedback link has been posted in the chat box. Do fill it before you leaving the session and you will receive your certificate within 2 to 3 days.
Madam, Dr. Vidya, thank you so much for your energetic and very informative and really your entire 1 hour session would have given a full structure about the public key infrastructure that we are following in our subject. All the students would highly benefited as well as our faculty, madam. Thank you for the wonderful webinar and accepting our invitation during this pandemic. We are so grateful to you, ma'am. We'll see you soon in our college as for a chief guest or for any other function. We'll be inviting you. Thanks a lot, ma'am, once again. Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Okay,
the
ma'am.
opportunity given.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I leave, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. We all can log out, ma'am. The session
Okay,
is
thank
over.
you. Thank you.
The students will
Okay,
fill up the feedback and we'll be passing on to you. Thanks a
okay,
lot,
okay.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Dear participants, the feedback link has been posted in the chat box. Do fill it before leaving the session, and you will receive your certificate within 2 to 3 days. Be safe, stay home, keep social distance. Let's all pray for the speedy recovery for affected person with COVID. Stay very safe. Thank you.
Thank you, students, for the wonderful participation as well as the coordinators for the best support they ever rendered for the successful conduction of this webinar. As during this pandemic, stay home, stay safe, and stay healthy, and keep social distancing wherever you go. So, study for the subjects. Please be at home, prepare for your subjects as it's an open book test. So, we all expect you to coordinate with your parents as well as with the friends and your thing to enable your knowledge or enrich your knowledge. That is what most warranted. Don't keep wandering outside your home. Wherever you go, please wash your hands, please wear your mask. That is very, very important. You all know what is the scenario. Uh, so hope you all understand, or you all professional students maintain a social distancing. Thanks a lot for the successful conduction of this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Priyadarshini ma'am, kindly stop recording.